Singaporeans, we spend a lot of time on our phones, our mobile devices, but apparently it's not always making calls or texting people. A survey has shown that we spend nearly 20% of our time on the move on social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, which means that some of us are the originators of pictures or videos that become overnight sensations, or we might have shared and spread the news that went viral last year. For example, some of these, like this taxi, you recall it made a wrong turn, it dived into a swimming pool at a condominium, and there was also another taxi. This one somehow ended up on a flight of steps at Nanyang Technological University. The horses, if you recall, escaped from their stable. These were spotted roaming around Pasir Ris. And last month, there was a man on the MRT dressed as a samurai with a sword, and he took the train and he terrified commuters who tweeted about it. Oh, this one happened in June. Strange weather in the form of hail that spread like wildfire online. You can see it there. And this one, of course, the riot at Little India. A lot of photos and videos filmed by eyewitnesses, and that went viral. So as we enter the new year and anticipate new social media trends and behavior in Singapore, just what lies ahead? To discuss it, I have with me in studio Professor Kirpal Singh from Singapore Management University. So Professor, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. So it's really become the norm. If anything out of the ordinary happens, people just crowd around the area, they take pictures, and immediately, you know, you see it online. Very often it's the first news that we get.
Right. Yeah.
Why do you think there's this compulsion to record what's happening all the time, to share it all the time?
Well, human beings are by nature, I think, social animals. They need to communicate, and this need goes back like, you know, thousands and thousands of years. I mean, in the old days, before the gizmos of new technology, right, people would sit around, tell stories, convey, you know, sensations that they have received or experienced one way or another. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the essence of what's going on is actually, you know, memorial from way back when. But the manner in which is now taking place, of course, is very different. I mean, in the old days, my communication may reach, what, 20 persons, 30 persons by way of mouth, and then the families might, you know, carry on forward. But these days, with technology, it could reach one, it could reach a million, a zillion, who knows? So, but I think at the bottom of it is this, you know, terribly, almost impossible to suppress need to tell others what one feels is important or what one is excited about.
So I guess these days, you know, we live in many social spaces, and the online media social space is the one that we can't escape anymore. It's actually a real part of our lives.
Absolutely, an extension of ourselves. Yep, very, very critical. And I think anybody who ignores that, ignores it at his or her peril, because this is the new world. I think it's very, very critical. And for those of us who are in education, those of us who are parents, those who are in any kind of lead positions and all of that, those of us who are followers, for every single one of us, I think this is something that is absolutely necessary to be aware of and to come to terms with. Yep.
But, you know, being able to communicate better with people is never a bad thing, you know, being able to talk to someone, get your ideas out there. But there are also some posts that people put up, they provoke strong reactions, some offensive intentionally or unintentionally, and these could be quite provocative sometimes and ruffle a lot of feathers.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll go a step further and say it could be outrightly dangerous, because one thing the history also tells us that evil, bad things, negative things, also happen because the people who communicate these things are very, very effective in communication. And so if I have the latest technology that enables me to communicate something that I think might create a little bit of excitement in some quarter, and therefore I derive some perverse pleasure from it, because I basically am very bad intentioned, you know, and I want to see people fight, or I want to see people scold each other or get angry with each other and get a great kick of it. Maybe I'm a sadistic kind of person. Then obviously this is very dangerous, and therefore one has to be educated in it. And I think the way around it is not only always to have some legal you know, control and restraint for the extreme cases, but to educate everyone, like young people, how to handle these things, but not to get overly too excited, you know what I mean? That to handle it with care, to check and verify, and make sure that one does not unintentionally contribute to the negativity that a video might be sending, you know, signals about, or a tweet message, or whatever, that new media communication might be.
So, Professor, on the note of education, they're introducing or they have cyber wellness syllabus in schools these days. So, what's your take on being a bit more careful, especially when it comes to children, in telling them that they need to behave a certain way online and not, be irresponsible about what they put out?
I think this is very, very critical, and I think there needs to be the partnership between at least 3 different sectors of our society, right? I mean, the parents, where it all happens at home very often, the schools, where a lot of this also takes place, and society at large. Now, some societies, I mean, I've just come back from Australia, right? My daughters live there, and we are talking about these things. And people get a kick out of, having their videos or their messages online being hit upon, right? Like, wow, I got, 10,000 hits, what did you get? They compare notes, and they get very excited about it. So it's a hallmark of an open, free society. But as we move in this line of freedom, I think there are also very necessary hesitations and anxieties that might be worth pondering over and reflecting upon, because to be free is one thing, but to use one's freedom to hurt other people, especially the innocents, I think that is where the line becomes very, very vague, blurred, and sometimes unwittingly unknown to most people, because most people are not educated in this new media. Most people don't know how to read a text, like a video, clip.
So I guess the takeaway is to slow down and, think before
and I
you
think
speak
have more
or think before you
discussions.
post.
I think we have more discussions about it, to have more conversations, like our national conversation, How do the young and the new, like Singapore Connect is doing a great job doing this.
Right.
I mean, how do we exercise these freedoms in a responsible, careful, cautious manner, so that what we have gained over the years in terms of social building is not undermined by some nut that goes crazy over something that excites him, but may not be very good for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, run out of time, but pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that was Professor Kirpal Singh on social media and how we should really behave online.